Hello, my name is Mick Fealty. I'm founding editor of Slugger O'Toole, and today I want to start a series of videos on looking at various constituencies throughout Northern Ireland. I will try to get through as many of them as possible, but since it's 2 weeks between now and the election itself, it may be that we can only pick through some of the highlights by video. I shall be doing a kind of a shortened profile in the week itself. So the first of the constituencies I want to look at in depth is North Antrim, because I think it may possibly shed some light on the substance of the fight within unionism. Demographically, according to the 2011 census, at least, that will have changed. The last year's census figures have not yet been reported and won't be until the summertime. It suggests that this is a 66% Protestant and 28% Catholic constituency. Just 4.8% of people say that they have no religion, and 0.7% say that it's something other than either of the two main religious blocs. Now, that's not about present belief, that's religion that you were brought up in, so it doesn't necessarily also cohere with mass going or regular church going. In terms of the social and economic data, 21% of the population have a degree level of education, whilst 32% have no qualifications at all. The Northern Ireland, that's a little bit behind the Northern Ireland average on both those figures. 67% are economically active to 33%. Again, that's in and around the Northern Ireland average. And in terms of a largely rural area, North Antrim is a relatively prosperous constituency, with the main town, Ballymena, providing a lot of employment and industry. All but one of the 5 seats here should remain firmly within the unionist camp, with poll topper Sinn Féin MLA Philip McGuigan really expected to win the 5th seat, but I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. These days, there ought to be room, if we were following previous rules, there ought to be room for at least one nationalist MLA here. In the old days, before the last boundary commission, there was enough for 2 nationalist MLAs, but a large chunk of the East Coast got chunked off and put into East Antrim instead. McGuigan was elected last time, just a few hundred votes short of a quota on 16%. And that is something that really he will have to try and improve on this time round, because, again, if we look at some of the recent research from Liverpool, they're going to be very short in terms of where their transfers come from somewhere else. But North Antrim, I think, is one of those places where we should be keeping an eye on the local alliance candidate, in this case Patricia O'Lynn, to see whether the 620 to 231 votes that she picked up in the party's 2019 Westminster surge, she's able to translate into a seat. It's one of those places where Sinn Féin may be vulnerable after its 2017 spring tide. That was a real stretch, and getting back up to that 16% may be a problem, especially if people are looking at some kind of an alternative to the Sinn Féin DUP duopoly. In 2017, when she last ran, in terms of the also ran, she overtook the rate achieved by the SDLP by some way, and they would have been contenders for that second nationalist seat before reorganisation. If she stays ahead of the Sinn Féin candidate, I think, in the first count, and if he can't make quota, I think that's where her opportunity begins to kick through, because of the transfers noted in the recent Liverpool poll holds, she could win that seat on transfers quite handily. Now, so what's interesting then about the unionist contest here, because I've already said I don't think there's going to be much change in terms of the result, but I think that's kind of informative for us. The constituency itself is long associations with the Paisley family. Ian Senior first won the Bandside seat in the old Stormont election back in 1969 and precipitated a destabilisation of unionist politics following that, because he took the seat of the retiring Prime Minister Terence O'Neill at the time, and it still has Ian Jr. as its MP, but it's far from far from a party sinecure here. The interesting thing to me, though, is just how little the TUV is likely to disturb the status quo. Former member, now arch nemesis, Jim Allister, is enjoying a renaissance in the polling for his party. And this is largely related, I think, to his vocal opposition to the protocol. And it has allowed him to exert an enormous pull on the DUP in terms of how they are framing their own campaign. Allister has long been the TUV's lonely fixture in the Stormont chamber, but his opposition to the protocol has given him this bigger pull in the public imagination that the party has long lacked. He and his running mate Matthew Armstrong will appear at the top of the ballot paper. However, his problem is that the gap he has to close to get a second seat here is probably too wide to close. Last time out, him and his running mate took just 16% of the vote, the same combined total that the Sinn Féin MLA, or candidate as he was then, took, while the DUP took over 40%. Now, at the time, the DUP were running three candidates. Philip Logan missed out at the heel of the hunt there last time round. And there's some speculation that if Jim had been willing to jump to East Antrim and left the field to Armstrong, then he might have maximised this surge, if you like, in the polling at least, and maximised the seat total afterwards, with Armstrong maybe taking the TUV seat in North Antrim and him taking one in East Antrim. But given he's running up against the Ulster Unionist Party's Robin Swan, the retiring health minister, who is currently the most popular politician in Northern Ireland, and two very steady and hard-working and well-liked DUP MLAs, Paul Frew and Mervyn Storey, I think Armstrong is unlikely to disturb the status quo under either of those two scenarios, I think. Knowing Swan will get over the line, the Ulster Unionists are running a second candidate, Bethany Ferris, presumably to test the waters and perhaps blood a new candidate ahead of the next election cycle. Providing turnout holds up, I reckon Paul Frew, who has majored on anti-COVID regulations, and Mervyn Storey, who is well socialised with the Orange Order in Antrim, and within the broader unionism, they're both well liked and hard working. That DUP pairing should come home, if necessary, with transfers from the TUV. This, I think, tells us something about the DUP's tactics in sticking with the Jim Allister line on Brexit, and in particular the protocol. It may look like madness to the rest of us and even a large majority of the Northern Irish population, but in general, the TUV gives DUP dissenters somewhere to go to protest, to then return their vote to the mothership to get them over the line in places where they may come up short on first preferences. And I think that will be the dynamic we ought to see here in North Antrim. I'd be very surprised, but you know, elections are full of surprises if it pans out in any other way. I think the biggest problem for the DUP and the sort of uncertainty aspect of this whole election is whether turnout holds up some of those strong figures from 2017. It may be that unionists are so fed up with them that many of them will simply stay at home, in which case we may see one Sinn Féin and one alliance and a loss of a unionist seat here. So that's definitely one to look out for on the night. It also shows that with, but to return to a more positive note for the DUP, it shows that even with polls favouring them quite substantially, Sinn Féin actually have quite a tricky election ahead of them, and that may explain why they're playing it safe in other places where on a good day they might be expected to hit the SDLP in some of its weaker spots. So that's the first of my elections. So I guess what my prediction here is 2 DUP, 1 TUV, 1 Ulster Unionist, and possibly an alliance upset here in a place where otherwise we might not have expected to see them. So that's all from me until the next time. If you've enjoyed the video, please do hit the like button or the bell icon in order to get further notifications of videos to come.